Welcome to
Welcome
my
to my
daily
daily
Taiji
Taiji
workout.
workout.
This is one half of my daily routine. Um, so this one is actually my nighttime practice, and it is meditative and relaxing to the most part. So we start with the preparation form or the Wuji form. It's actually the beginning form, and basically make sure that the internal alignments and the physical alignments are all in order. Uh, Tailbone is slightly dropped, the chin is tucked slightly, crown point suspended, uh, and then do a small series of warm ups, loosening, energy activation exercises. The first one is basically picking a point on the forehead and just mentally moving that point side to side. And the movement is such that your entire head will follow. The rest of your body doesn't move. So this is basically like a neck uh, loosening relaxation exercise. Um, Initially, you might have to just move your head, but after a certain amount of practice, you can actually feel the energy. You can feel a pulsation in your forehead, like right about where the third eye is, and you should be able to basically just move that sensation from side to side. So after this is done, you basically uh, pick a spot in your shoulder. So in this case, I'm starting with the right shoulder, and so pick the spot and then basically do the same thing. Oh well, I started with the left shoulder in this case. So pick the spot and basically rotate that in a 360-degree arc. So essentially you're taking a point with your mind on your left shoulder and then rotating it clockwise and counterclockwise. So as the point moves, the rest of your arm follows, and there should be no movement of your shoulder itself without actually feeling a movement of the point. So it's basically your mind is driving that point to rotate in an arc, and the rest of your hand and your shoulder follows. So in this whole process, you can do a little bit of rising and sinking, and that kind of helps because it kind of coordinates with the opening and closing of the lower dantian. So once that's done, you basically try and connect with your lower dantian. Or if you can't initially connect with the lower dantian, you can actually pick a spot which is about 2 inches below your navel and about halfway in between your body. So inside your torso, you should be able to feel a pulsation. You should be able to feel an energetic sensation, and you basically rotate that to the sides. So as that dantian turns, your upper torso turns, and the movement is basically a rotation of the waist, and you should be able to see. You should so one what happens also is that the inguinal crease or the qua will open and one will close. So this is an opening and closing of the qua and also a rotation of the waist. So once this is done, basically rise up while inhaling, sink down while exhaling. This is an opening and closing movement also, and your lower dantian should open and close as you're doing the inhalation and exhalation. All this time, it's very important to stay suspended from the crown point. So the sensation that we get is essentially like a little tornado is circling on top of your crown point. and it's a very palpable energetic connection. And once you start feeling that, you know that you're suspended from the crown point. And after a period of practice, it actually becomes kind of second nature. You don't even have to think about it, you stay suspended. Initially you might have to spend a lot of time, maybe like 10-15 minutes at a stretch, as long as your mind doesn't wander, and in the beginning form, and just try to connect from the crown point. So you basically, first feel your center, and then along the spine you send your mind up, like a rod going up from your spine out of your crown, and another rod going down into the ground through your tailbone. And so that split will eventually lead to a crown point connection. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm basically just meditating with my hands hovering above my lower dantian area. And as I'm inhaling, there's a little ball of energy. So initially it could be an imaginary thing, but eventually it will become a real and palpable energetic ball, which is expanding and contracting as I inhale and exhale. So as I inhale, the dantian opens and the ball comes out, and then my palms are resting on the ball. As I exhale, basically I move from side to side, and it's what I'm doing is I'm connecting to the center of well, it's an energetic ball, and my lower dantian is connected to it, and I am moving the ball side to side, and as the ball moves, the rest of my body follows. So the center of the ball and my dantian are connected, and so you could say that it's like a copy of my dantian that's in the ball. So in this, it's very important to not like bounce up and down, and try to maintain as flat a plane as possible as we're moving from side to side. So this is in essence the beginning stance, or the beginning form. Um, After this is done, we've basically dropped the ball down into the ground, and then it bounces back up. And as we rise and inhale, the ball is moving. And so essentially, you can do it in two ways. You can basically make the ball move, or you can follow the ball's movement. And this form is called the upward and downward form. So here, my palms are resting on a big Taiji ball, and as I'm inhaling, the Taiji ball is expanding and moving my hands up, and as I'm exhaling, the Taiji ball is sinking, and my hands and the rest of my body follows. So it's a coordinated move. Um, it's very important to stay suspended, and the spine should remain straight, and tailbone dropped. Um, so this is upward and downward. After a while, this is a little more of an advanced practice where we can meditate while holding a physical posture. So this can be done in any position in the arc that the hand is following in upward and downward. So in this case, I'm holding it in front of my chest channel, and my hands are static. My form is more or less static, but I'm driving the energy mentally. So in my mind, I'm basically driving the Taiji ball up and down, and my hand is moving, my body is moving, even though physically I'm not moving. So this essence, in essence, is movement in stillness, or motion in stillness, in that the energy is moving even though the physical body is more or less static. In order to help with this process, we can do a very gentle, very small movement where we're rising and sinking very, very gently, a very small movement of the body. And that too helps. And after a while, we can do this without having to actually physically move. Um, so this form was called meditation in upward and downward. So after we're done with this, we basically move on to the next form in temple style Taiji, which is called inward and outward. So in this form, what we're doing is we're basically picking up the Taiji ball. So there's a Taiji ball that we are holding between our hands and our body. Um, Eventually, this ball will kind of expand to behind our body as well. So for like beginning practice, we can just assume that there's a Taiji ball that we're holding. It's like you're holding a beach ball and you're raising it up. As the center of the ball rises, our body rises. We are inhaling, and as we exhale, we split the ball into two and make an arc. There are two balls that follow an arc down the front of the body and the side, and then they go into the earth, and then they merge together. So around here, two balls merge, and then we rise again. So in all of this, it's very important to make sure that our crown point remains suspended, our tailbones dropped so that there's no strain on the lower back. Our shoulders and elbows remain dropped. So it should be a very relaxed, very, very smooth and soft movement, a very delicate movement. So again, this is a little more advanced practice where you can hold the inward and outward posture in this way. So with your hands about 45 degrees out and in front of the body. And with the mind, we are driving the inward and outward form, just like we did with upward and downward. So our mind is driving the energy, and so initially it's a matter of just making sure that we can concentrate and imagine that our body is still moving, and that sensation, you get a energetic sensation in your body, maybe just in your palms initially, and just maintain that as you're breathing in and out. So even though physically we are staying static, we are actually moving the energy internally. So one thing that I wanted to kind of make a point about is that, so for the longest time when I was practicing, I used to practice with my eyes closed. And so my teacher recently corrected me, and he said that, okay, so when you practice with your eyes closed, you're connecting internally. And when you practice with your eyes open, you're connecting to the energy outside. So it's very important to do both. So one trick that you can use, or one method you can use is, and I do that from time to time, is keep my eyes open as I'm opening my posture. So like here, as I'm opening up, my eyes open, and then as I'm sinking and closing down, my eyes close. So this is another form in which we basically, it's like swimming. So you think about you're swimming in water, and your hands, they are holding two taiji balls, and you're basically moving the taiji balls in a circular fashion. So as they get closer to your body, the two taiji balls merge, and you're exhaling. And as you inhale, the two taiji balls kind of move forward and split, and then again they come back together again. Um, Another way that my teacher, Master Jose, has been kind of emphasizing is to send two thin bars of energy out of the centers of our palms, so like the Lao point, and making sure that we can evenly connect to the earth. So think about like two bars of energy going out of your center of your palm and into the earth, and there'll be like basically two spoons. And what we're doing is we're stirring up gravity. It sounds a little weird when we talk about it, but with some practice, you can actually start feeling the sensation that you're actually churning or moving gravity. And this is a very good way to practice. And the master says that when we practice this way, eventually we'll get to a point where we actually, gravity starts cooperating with us, and we can do more advanced applications using this. So again, in this, you basically go in one direction and then reverse, then go the opposite direction. So at one point, your hands are going clockwise, and then they're going anti-clockwise. So now you swing your hands around and basically hold a Taiji ball in front of your middle dantian, and this is called the Taiji stance. And so it's the same concept: suspended from crown point, shoulders, elbows dropped, tailbone drop, lower back relaxed. Breathe in, you rise and expand, open up, and the Tai Chi ball expands. And exhalation, we sink, and the Tai Chi ball shrinks, and our body closes, Dantian closes. So there are many things that we need to keep track of in as part of doing our Tai Chi practice. So at the beginning stages, we'll be thinking about the physical aspect of it, the rising, the sinking, the alignments, and things like that. And after a while, we start feeling the energetics. And so then we can start thinking about opening and closing the dantian. Maybe you feel, certain channels activating or certain paths activating and closing. uh, Ideally, what we should feel is like the whole body is integrated together. So again, here this is a more advanced practice where we are doing basically standing meditation in the Taiji ball stance, where it's also called hugging the tree stance, where we basically hold the Taiji ball between our palms. Our middle dantian and the center of the Taiji ball are aligned. However, our lower dantian is always connected to all the dantians and the center of the Taiji ball. And while we are physically holding the posture, mentally we're driving the opening and closing, the expansion and contraction of the Taiji ball. As with the other forms, we can actually do a slight sinking and a slight rise, opening, rising to help us with the process. So this is called meditation in the Taiji stance. So eventually what we can do is we bring the Tai Chi ball down in front of our lower dantian. and meditate that way. So you still have the expansion, contraction, opening and closing happening. And after a point, we basically turn the center of the Taiji ball to, in this case, the left side. And as we turn, we basically want to maintain the integrity of the three dimensionality of the ball, such that it's almost like initially we'll basically have to imagine that a ball, we are physically turning a ball from side to side. uh, in this case, it's basically following the same warm-up routine that we had done, where we are turning from the waist and the middle, the lower dantian. But in this case, the hand is kind of following the path of a ball being turned from side to side. Over a period of time, this feeling will become very palpable, and it'll be a strong, energetic feeling. And you'll actually feel compression, like an expansion and a resistance, almost like two poles of a magnet being, brought together. So if you have two magnets in your hand and you bring them together, the resistance that you feel, you'll feel that resistance. And then, when you try to take two poles of a magnet aside, apart, when they're opposite poles and they're connected, you'll feel like a resistance to being pulled apart, and you feel that. So that is essentially how a Taiji ball should feel, at least in the intermediate stages. And then basically, we so initially we use our mind to move the Taiji ball, but after a while we'll want the Taiji ball to move us. So we just listen, we wait, we listen, we hold it, and if we have to stay in that position for 10 minutes, we just hold it and stay in that position for 10 minutes, and then the ball moves and we move with it. So in this case, what we're doing is we are doing what's called splitting the Taiji ball. So we take the Taiji ball from on one side and we compress it, compress it, compress it. So like here, we're compressing the Taiji ball. We compress, we sink, we exhale, and then at one point when we can't compress it anymore, we split and there becomes two Taiji balls. And then we bring them back together again on the other side, compress and split. So in some other, like the Yang style, and I guess the other Taiji styles, this is also called parting the wild horse's mane. But that's essentially what it's doing. This is a split form where we're splitting Taiji ball into two and then putting it back together again. So this is another energetic meditation where we're basically holding the Taiji ball, and the Taiji ball moves, and as it moves, we just follow it physically. With some practice, we'll start feeling a vibration in the Taiji ball, and as it moves up or down, we feel that vibration going through our body, our physical body. And so essentially what it's doing is it's charging us up, and so it goes counterclockwise and then clockwise. So ideally we are following the center of the Taiji ball, and the energy is moving and we are just listening and following. But initially we might have to just use our imagination a little bit and move. Over a period of time, this becomes more natural and we don't have to think about it. The energy moves and we follow. So with this form, we can actually work on specific dantians. So in this case, I'm working on the middle dantian. Um, so a similar way, we can work on cleansing, charging up the upper dantian, the lower dantian. So the objective is to basically feel the vibration of the Taiji ball and let that vibration flow through the specific dantian, and the dantian should vibrate at the same frequency as the Taiji ball. Once we get to the point where we start feeling the energy, this becomes very, very palpable and very powerful. However, for beginners, it is probably not going to be that effective. Um, it'll still benefit people, but if you cannot feel the energy, it's hard to get proper feedback and adjust the practice accordingly. So in this specific form, what I'm doing is I'm actually connecting my upper dantian to the center of the Taiji ball, and it's like I'm looking through my dantian, upper dantian, and out into infinity. And this, even though I have my eyes closed, I'm using essentially what is the third eye and sensing what's out there, going into infinity, coming back. We're breathing out through the upper dantian, breathing in through the upper dantian. And so now the same thing you can do as I'm doing with the middle dantian. So just imagine that you're seeing through your middle dantian into the center of the Tai Chi ball in front of you and into infinity. And you're also breathing through it. So as you inhale, you go into infinity and pull energy into your middle dantian, and then you exhale, you just go back and talk to infinity. In this case, what it means is you're basically trying to connect to the Tao. There's no fixed time span for doing these practices. You can do as long as you feel comfortable. The most important thing is to remain relaxed in both mind, body, and energy. Uh, so if we feel tension in the energy or the body, the mind gets agitated. When the mind gets agitated, if we cannot quieten it down and settle it down, it's better to end the practice than to actually continue practicing with an agitated mind. Uh, an agitated mind will cause more uh, problems eventually than anything else. So in this form, what I'm doing is I'm basically taking a Taiji ball as it, so essentially it moves and then it stops in front of my middle dantian, and I'm condensing the Tai Chi ball. So my mind, my upper dantian, my middle dantian, my lower dantian are all connected to the center of the Tai Chi ball, which is now shrunk and it's in the middle of my palm. And you want to put everything in there, but still be, you know, that connection with your dantians and the Tai Chi ball needs to stay. And eventually what will happen is when your ball condenses enough, it will move, and as it moves it rises up, basically tracing a path through the channels, the central channel, and it goes out and into infinity from the crown point. So as it does that, it's imagine like it's a flower, and the flower is opening and you're pulling in all the sky energy So the energy is pouring in through your crown point, and as you inhale, it's like the crown point connects to the heavens, and as you exhale, just put your mind in your lower dantian. So my teacher told me that it's not good to force the energy. So don't try and pull stuff in. Just let it flow into your body through the crown point. And as you exhale, you put your mind in the lower dantian, and essentially the lower dantian does the role of pulling in, condensing, distributing the energy throughout your body where it's needed. So, in the temple style Taiji parlance, this practice is called the condense, charge up, and draining practice. So, here basically you can imagine that there's a big balloon, bubble of energy that's kind of slowly descending over you, kind of like a jar over you, and it is all around. So it's not just in the front. It's basically three-dimensional, and it's all around. It's encompassing you, and eventually the energy will start. It might expand. So it's not just where your hands are. It might expand way, way bigger. It might fill the entire room. It might fill your entire home. If you're out there, it can fill the entire world. But we're always connected to our center. So with this, what we're doing is we're basically draining, and what we're draining is basically the heavy, impure energy, all or the blockages or the junk that's in our system. We're draining it out, and how we do that is we basically, as we inhale, we extend out of our fingertips and as far deep into the ground as we can, and around us. So imagine like you're sending ink into a blotting paper deep in the ground, and the ink starts spreading in all directions wherever the paper can go. So the blotting paper has to be like as far as your mind can imagine, and so the energy, basically the junk energy, goes and spreads all over as far as our mind can send, deep as possible in the ground. And on the exhalation, we just basically focus on the dantian. We just bring our mind and keep it on the lower dantian. And that's it. So as we inhale, we project the energy out into the ground and around as far as we can go. And as we exhale, we just keep our mind on the lower dantian. And when we want to finish up, we basically gather around as much of the energy around us as we can. And so initially it'll just be an imagination where you're saying, okay, I'm trying to go and connect to everything around me as my hands are tracing a path around my body, and bring that back and basically put it into the lower dantian. But eventually we'll actually start feeling the energy, the sensation of whatever it is that we feel, like an electrical tingling, and different people feel it in different ways. So tingling, heat, magnetic sensation in our hands and arms, that starts growing and it becomes really strong, and then we send that feeling into our dantian. So here I just wanted to do the long form, uh, and so I'm not going to explain the long form specifically. It's just that we want to make sure that we have the sensation of flowing and the energetic sensation always when we're doing it. Suspend it from the crown point, tailbone relaxed, and always keep the opposites in mind. So if we're going forward, we also want to be aware of the back. And if you're going backward, we want to be aware of the front.